for the freedom and glory of
Age of Empires.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Age of Histories. It's been a while since we've met, but what a better opportunity to get back into the swing of things than with the new Chronicles DLC that's covering the conquests of one of the greatest leaders that has ever walked the earth, Alexander the Great. So strap yourselves in and get set as we go through the exploits of Macedon's greatest son and one of my favorite historical commanders. Let's wallow. In the ancient Macedonian city of Pella in 356 BC, a child was born to King Philip and Queen Olympias. The child was named Alexander, a name that would echo through the ages as one of the greatest military commanders ever to walk the planet. From his earliest days, he thirsted for greatness. As a youth, he was entrusted to Aristotle, who taught him philosophy, science, and poetry. Yet in his heart, Alexander carried something grander: the call for conquest. At 13, when others saw an unruly steed, he saw a companion. When he tamed the untamable Bucephalus, bending the wild horse to his will, his capacity for greatness became evident to all who saw him. When Alexander was only 16, his father campaigned abroad and left him as regent. He faced rebellion, quelled threats, and proved himself in the field. At 18, he rode into battle at Kyrenaica beside Philip, breaking the sacred band of Thebes and securing Macedon's dominance over the Greek city-states. But darkness fell in 336 BC. His father, Philip, was assassinated, leaving Alexander, barely 20, to seize the Macedonian throne. Swift and merciless, he eliminated rival claimants and quashed unrest. In a decisive display, when he marched on Thebes when it revolted, he razed its walls to the ground and sold its survivors into slavery, sparing only the poet's house and temples, sending a clear signal across Greece that his rule would brook no defiance. Yet his eyes lay east, upon mighty Persia, and in 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont with a force of Macedonians and Greek allies determined to confront Darius III's realm. At the river Granicus, he struck swiftly, breaking the Persian lines, and the path into Asia Minor lay open. Cities surrendered and were liberated, local tyrants were cast down and replaced with democracies sympathetic to his cause. He continued his march along the Mediterranean, securing Phoenicia and forcing the Persian fleet towards Tyre, who refused to capitulate. For 7 months, Alexander's engineers turned Tyre from an island into a peninsula by building a causeway under fire, which allowed them to eventually storm the walls and water the ground with a great deal of blood. In Egypt, the Persians surrendered, and Alexander was welcomed as a liberator. At Memphis, he offered sacrifice to Apis and crowned himself pharaoh. He founded Alexandria, planning a city to rival any in the world, which eventually it would. When he journeyed to the oracle at Siwa, the priests declared him as the son of Amun, where the legend of his divinity took root. Turning inland in 331 BC, Alexander confronted Darius at Gaugamela. Outnumbered but better led, the Macedonian phalanx and cavalry tore through the Persian lines, forcing Darius to flee and yield the imperial heart of Persia.
Zeus be with us! Macedonians, ride! Ride! Ride for the home! Ride for the
Alexander marched on Babylon and Susa, looting riches, but also enacting policies. He left the local administrations in place and encouraged Persian ministers to adopt elements of Persian dress court protocol, hoping to fuse East and West. He also ceremonially burned the palace of Persepolis in a symbolic act of ending the old regime, although whether this was done in a drunken stupor or as a solemn design remains debated. Then began the Eastern campaigns. He pressed through the Elburz mountains into Hyrcania, across Bactria and Sogdania, quelling revolts, founding cities named Alexandria everywhere, from Jaxartes to the Indus. In 327 BC, he crossed into India, and at the Hydaspes River, he clashed with King Porus.
Isn't it a lovely thing to live with great courage and to die leaving an everlasting fame? Oh, Macedonians, why do you retreat? We want to live forever! In the name of Zeus, attack! Come, Macedonians! Ride! Ride!
Was the bloodiest of his battles. Pure butchery. We'd never be men again.
Victory came once more, though his forces were stretched thin and weary of war. Pressed onward toward the Hippasus, his men mutinied, refusing to venture farther into the edge of the world. But even the greatest military commanders depend on their soldiers for their conquests, and Alexander begrudgingly had to accept the army's decision and turned it westward. In the following years, he reorganized his vast empire, organizing mass marriages at Susa, binding Macedonians and Persians, and satraps were purged or reappointed. His closest friend and possible lover, Hephaestion, died in Ecbatana in 324 BC. Alexander's grief was legendary, and from then on he openly entertained the idea of his divinity. The following year, whilst in Babylon, Alexander fell ill after a banquet, and 10 days later, on June the 10th or June the 11th, he died at the age of 32. He appointed no clear heir, leading to his generals, the Diadochi, to squabble and war amongst themselves, carving the largest empire the world had ever seen into lesser kingdoms. But Alexander's legacy was not his empire, it was the proliferation of Greek culture which poured across Asia, the building of new cities anchored in Hellenism, trade and the flow of ideas. Yet perhaps his mightiest legacy is his military career, which left him undefeated in battle and immortal in death. For Alexander was not a general who directed battles from distant hills. He fought where the danger was thickest. He led his companion cavalry in thundering charges, personally breaching enemy lines. At Granicus, he was nearly killed by a Persian noble, only to be saved by a loyal officer. His body bore countless wounds, each a mark of valor, each a message to his soldiers. Their king would never ask what he would not dare himself. His presence at the front inspired unmatched loyalty and drove men to achieve the impossible. The name Alexander the Great still inspires leaders and generals to this day, for he was truly a god amongst men. Yes, he was a genocidal maniac like most warlords of the ages, but focusing on that is misunderstanding the epicness of this man, for he may have felt like a god, but he was very human, and the fact that he inspired tens of thousands to conquer the world and beyond speaks to the greatness of his achievements. Like all others who were known as the Great, what made them great was not the conquests themselves, but the charisma, energy, and drive that they had to inspire leadership that rarely walked the earth. For when men like Alexander the Great led the way, the gods themselves could not stop them.
Did such a man as Alexander exist? Of course not. We idolize him, make him better than he was. But how can I say it? How can I tell you what it was like to be young, and to dream big dreams, to believe when Alexander looked you in the eye, you could do anything, anything. In his presence, by the light of Apollo, we were better than ourselves. Truly, I've known many great men in my life, but only one Colossus. Men. All men reach and fall, reach and fall.